We the Property Brrrrothas. The Property Brrrrothas.
What's up, everybody?
The
It's your
Property
boys,
Brrrrothas.
the Property Brrrrothas. I am your host,
Yeah.
Jordan, along with my cousin, partner in crime, and all things extraordinaire, Drew, my brother. What's up, man?
What's
Cheers.
happening, dude? How are you, man?
Doing
Crafty,
good.
crafty.
Boom. How was
How
your
you
week?
living? Man, the week was actually, it was good, but it was busy, as always, which I think we're going to get into today, right?
Yeah. So this is an episode, ladies and gentlemen, on this Crafting Goals Friday where, hey, we're just going to talk about, what is it like to kind of, walk with us, live in our shoes for about minutes of your time. And, we're going to talk about, what it's like to, on a day-to-day basis, get through the hustle and grind for, W-2 fathers, husbands, and real estate investors, how we work that 9 to 5 to eventually get to a financial freedom. So, that's just kind of
Yeah.
what we're going to peel back the layers on tonight, people.
I love it, man. I love it. So we're getting into the nitty gritty, taking a little peek, peeling back the curtains.
Yes,
People get to
sir.
see how we live it.
Yes, sir. Oh, by the way, I got bougie like you. I got my
I like it.
wine. Yes,
I got
sir.
my wine too.
You got your
What are you
red.
drinking?
I got my white. I have a nice bottle. I don't know if it's nice. I mean, that might be a stretch, but it's a bottle of
Yes.
Pinot Grigio. How about you, man?
So I've got a Cabernet Franc, and it sounds fancy. It's a little musty, in my opinion. It's a little musty, But on Crafty Fridays, we can't get picky. I can't pop open the good stuff until my wife gets home, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I had to find
Yeah.
a nice little rusty bottle of wine that I could drink by myself, and she wouldn't be angry at me when she found out I
Yeah.
already started drinking.
Busted old bottle of wine, man. That's fine.
Yes,
Well,
I
hey,
love
we'll
it,
take
man.
it. We glad you here with us, man. So cool, man. So listen, we're gonna get into it. So Drew, tell us about, you know, what is your typical week like? Why don't you just start with today, bro? Like, what was today like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the first thing that I did, which is it's kind of a bad habit, but the first thing I do is open up my phone to see if there's any emergencies that popped up with any of the properties.
Overnight, huh?
Yeah, overnight. I mean, the challenge that we have is we're in California and investing in Indianapolis, we're 3 hours behind. So, if I'm popping up at say, 6 o'clock in the morning, it's already 9 o'clock there. There's a lot of things that could have already occurred, right? We have yeah, we personally have one rehab that we're doing together, but on top of that, I have, gosh, 3 other rehabs that are going on right now. And so,
You're a busy man.
yeah, very busy. So I'm checking that, and that's usually the very first thing that I'm looking, just to make sure that if there's anything that I can put out, any fires I can put out, I'm on top of that. The other thing that I'm checking is I'm making sure, that all the websites that we manage are up, right? So I jump on there, I take a look at the email for the business and make sure that there's no fires that are needing to be put out there as well. And then, get up, and typically I'll try to do my workout, man. Got to try to get that workout in early because I know that the day is going to be full of challenges, ups and downs, and navigating and problem solving, etc. So yeah, that's how I typically start my mornings, man. Getting that workout. I think working out in the morning is huge because it helps you to kind of clear your mind. It's a good opportunity for you to be with yourself, etc. So the other thing that I like to do is, once I'm working out, I'm also thinking about what does that day look like, right? So going back to the goal setting, right? I'm thinking about where am I at with the weekly goals. So today, I kind of took inventory of what I was able to accomplish this week and what still needed to be accomplished. So that when I'm done with my workout, I could come down and I can put into my little spreadsheet, hey, was I able to accomplish everything that I did yesterday? And what's on the plate for today, especially with today being Friday. Am I able to kick everything across the finish line that I wanted to get done?
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
you, man? What does your day look like?
Yeah, man. So as you guys know, I'm a teacher. So my day is full of students, right? From 8 to pretty much like around 4:30, sometimes 5. I coach after school. But prior to that, I'm getting up in the morning. I'm also doing my workout. I also am checking, hey, what happened overnight? Is there any emergencies that really needed my attention? Thankfully, with the systems that I have in place, my property manager will kind of take care of all those things unless it's a big thing that, needs my immediate attention. And then after that, I pop up. My day usually starts at 5 a.m. Knock out that workout that Drew was saying, kind of clear my mind, get my spirit ready, get my body ready, get my mind ready to really tackle the day. I talked about it on the
Yeah.
previous Crafting Goals Friday, Carpe Diem, right? Let's seize the
Yep.
day, let's seize the opportunity, let's crush it. But I also have to get 3 little ones out the door with me, right? Because they
Right.
also
Right.
attend the school that I teach at. And so that's always a little bit of a challenge. Our youngest is 4. She's in TK, but she is very independent and she can do a lot of the things on her own. But, it's still a challenge to get 3 little ones out the door and, by 7:30 so that we can get to campus in a decent amount of time. And then, Drew alluded to it, we have our accountability calls. We have our accountability calls every morning. I really look forward to those so that not only am I getting that, that workout out of the way, getting ready for the day, but now I can really focus in to crush these 3 goals for the day, and now that it's
Yeah.
Friday, we can look back on the week and see like, okay, how did we do? And for me, man, shoot, this is a great Crafting Goals Friday because we actually had a day off today. It's not a holiday, it's just a non-school day. So that really allowed me to sleep in just a tad bit. I still was able to have our accountability call with Drew and the other members of our team. I still knocked out my workout. And what's really cool is that I was able to have some and I think we'll talk about this a little bit more. So it's going to be kind of a good segue, but I was really able to have a date with my daughter. We call it daddy-daughter dates. So with that said, Drew, how are you able to kind of balance, right, that, this, all the hats, right? The hats
Yeah,
that we
for sure.
juggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we got W-2s, right? You are a marketing executive, right? You're the principal of an advertising agency. I'm a school teacher. We also coach, both of us.
Yeah.
I also officiate. We're also husbands and we're also fathers, friends, brothers, sons. So how do you navigate that? And, how can people kind of, understand, there's only 24 hours in a day. What do you do?
Yeah. So I think it does really start with being very intentional with what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, right? Setting the intent of the goals throughout not only the business. So it starts with being intentional, setting the intent of what it is that you are looking to accomplish in all aspects of your life, whether that be within the advertising agency. And, for me, even in the advertising agency, I'm consistently thinking about being intentional for my clients, right? So, like this morning, the first thing that I was thinking about was, hey, how am I going to help to position this client in front of more opportunities? What different types of vehicles or segues or segments that I channels that I can utilize to get them in front? So, I'm juggling a lot of information, and it really it's starts with that goal setting. It really does. And it's not only the goal setting for myself, but the goal setting for my clients, the goal setting for the business. So while we have goals for ourselves, I actually have goals that are set aside for the business, for the businesses, right? So I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And I think for me, with me running an agency, it's also super important to make sure that my team members understand what the goals are of the business and have goals for themselves as well. So we have quarterly goals that they are currently working towards. We have weekly meetings, so I can hold those guys accountable. My biggest When I first started investing, my biggest challenge was having way too much on my plate, right? And so I had to understand, who could I delegate some of these things to, right? Are there are there opportunities for me to take some things off of my plate? I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we feel as though we are the only ones that can get certain things done. And so we have to understand how to kind of maneuver ourselves out of the way, right? Out of the way of growth, right? So that's, those are some of the tools that I utilize.
Any apps or any like technology
There's
or
a book, let me
yeah,
tell you, there's a
yeah.
book that I read, it's called Traction. And what Traction does, it really helps you to break down your business into it's a tool called EOS, right? And trying to remember, it's entrepreneur operating system. And it helps you to really break down all of the SOPs. It helps you to define the different roles of the people that are in your business, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really getting into the business aspect of it from an entrepreneur's perspective. But that has been an excellent way for me to manage. The other thing is my wife really helps me out, right? She's my partner on this journey. I often, jokingly say that she's my social coordinator, right? So if there's something that has to be done with regards to the family, it's got to be in this calendar, right? So we populate everything in the Google Calendar. And if it's on the Google Calendar, guess what? I'm there, right? And that's one of the main reasons why I actually work for myself, is because growing up, I realized that a lot of times, my parents weren't always there because they had a 9 to 5, right? They couldn't just take off when they wanted to. And so my goal with starting my own business has been, I want to be there for my kids. So I want to be able to be there for every dance recital that my daughter has, every basketball game that my son has, every track meet that he has, whatever that particular event or situation that's going on, I want to make sure that I am there. So with my wife being able to, take, I don't know how many hours she spends, but it's funny, on Saturdays, I'll see like ding, 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 all these calendar invites that she's populating. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm gonna be tied up on Monday
Yeah,
at
yeah,
five
yeah.
o'clock. So but yeah, that's how we kind of balance family life. How about you? How does it work in your
Yeah.
household?
Well, and then just to kind of piggyback on that, your wife is also in education too, dude. So, she's got a 9 to 5 and she's, 8 to 3:30, 4, 5 o'clock, right? So, you know,
Absolutely.
and my wife as well is a professional. She's like you, works from home, but
Yeah.
she's up by 6, and she's going to, 4, sometimes 5, sometimes longer on the weekends. So,
Yeah.
we're very similar. We have the calendar, the Apple calendar or whatever. We share it. Everything goes in there. Boom, boom, boom. For the businesses, I have the Google calendar. All our meetings, all my things that I have to take care of as far as the properties are concerned.
Yep.
That goes in the Google calendar. So, you know, uh, a lot of the same, bro. And I think this is a great segue, to kind of talk about, right, the family support and, just how we kind of, get that spousal communication, that spousal kind of support to do like what Drew said, be our coordinator, when we can't always be there. And sometimes I feel like, bro, we need to like have a clone, like, damn, if I could have a clone, to teach, to coach, to ref, to call clients and or potential buyer sellers, right? To also be a dad, be a husband, dude, that would be great, man. Because listen, back in 2020, man, when I went down this rabbit hole with investing, my wife was like, huh?
Yeah.
and, God bless her. Thank you that she was very supportive and just kind of let me do me. But, how do we communicate with them? What's that kind of like for you?
I think you probably can speak to that mo better than I can. The reason is because when my wife met me, I was already an entrepreneur, and she signed up for this wild ride.
She knew what she was getting into.
She knew what she was getting into, you know? She knew I was crazy. She's like, "How do you deal with the uncertainty of a 9 to 5?" I'm like, "How do you deal with a 9 to 5?" You know? I mean, come on now, right? So, one of the things that was super important to me as I entered the workforce was I wanted to make sure that I had the freedom, and that freedom to be able to go to my kids' events without someone saying, "Hey, you gotta be here, you gotta stay here," et cetera, et cetera. So I positioned myself in, I put myself in a position where I could be that decision maker, and I could be the one that says, "Hey, if I'm going to go to this event, this is how it's going to impact me, and I'm okay with that." Right. So I can be at the dance recitals. I can be at the basketball games. I can help to coach my son's basketball or coach track or whatever it may be. But, and I think that what's beautiful about that is I'm, I'm in a position where I have created that for myself. I manifested that for myself. Right.
That's deep, bro.
And because I manifested that for myself, that's part of everything that I do.
Yes, sir.
So it's not work first. It's not real estate first. It's family first. Right. And so family first is top, everything else is bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, man. Here,
And
here.
so
Cheers. Cheers to that,
hey,
brother.
cheers, man. Everything else comes behind that, baby.
I switched it up, by the way.
I see. Look how beautiful that is. It's a gorgeous deep red. Mm.
I mean, I
Hey,
had to
rusty
get
ass
away from
bottle
that.
of wine.
Huh? He said?
Rusty ass bottle of wine.
Man, I had to get away from my rusty ass bottle of wine and get back to a crafting goals Friday.
Ooh,
Ooh,
big
that's a
slurp,
dipper.
huh?
Yeah, that's a
I
dipper right
like it.
there. So,
I
dude,
like it.
so
So,
this
but
is,
dude, no, so hold on. You asked me the question.
I did, but hold on.
How did you get your wife
Okay.
on board?
Okay. I mean, how much time do you have?
You know, I got 2 minutes.
I'll make it short and sweet, dude. I mean, so it was a conversation, and it was kind of a lot of me doing, and me kind of telling her after the
Uh huh.
fact,
Uh
like,
huh.
oh, by the way,
Uh
um
huh.
we going to invest in some real estate. And she was like, okay, cool. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but it ain't here. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like,
Right.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think, if I'm being honest, my wife is very understanding. I just sat her down and I just say, I think this would be something very rock solid for our family, to build in the future, and she was on board. I showed her, what the numbers look like.
Yeah.
And, I said, hey, I can't do this without you.
Right.
I need your support, and if you're in, beautiful. If you're not, okay, cool, but thank God she was in. And,
Right.
here we are 5 years later, and we're still on this journey. And so kudos to her. But, just to piggyback on what you said, man, for me, that's having that foundation, I think is very key to being an entrepreneur, 9 to 5, a W-2 person, having your foundation, having all your ducks in a row, right? And what is your why? We go back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? My family, right? Leaving that legacy.
Right. Yep.
God is, first and foremost, for this
Right.
family. Everything else fits into the puzzle there, right? It's God, it's my wife, it's my children, it is my job, and then everything else, right? So let me ask you this, dude. This is actually what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you, are there some, some little special things, that you do with your wife to kind of, keep, just kind of keep her in the loop, just to keep your marriage, strong while you're investing, you know, you're doing what you do.
Listen, how much time you got?
I got
No,
30 seconds.
right. Listen, check it out. Everything that we
And
do
that's what
is
she
for,
said.
yes, she said it once, said it twice. Happy wife, happy life. That is a saying that every man knows, at least every married man knows, right?
Amen.
So, with regards to the real estate investing, I do try and include her in a lot of what I'm doing. And, she does know that it's for the family,
Yep.
but she really would prefer not to know the particulars because she is a 9 to 5 person, right? So she likes that stability, and all she sees is kind of the money going out and the insecurity of it. Because investing is not a controlled environment. This is an environment that is a consistent experiment. And there are things that get thrown at you left and right. And I think me being a good husband, I spare her the details, because she would not sleep. She just would not sleep at night. So, you know, what I promise her is that I'm not going to lose our money, right?
There you go.
And I promise her that we're going to go on vacation every year. She's like, hey, listen, you can do what you want to do. Just don't mess with my vacations, right? Those vacations are, and you know what? Thank goodness for her because to be honest, I probably wouldn't try and go on such elaborate trips. Like, I built a staycation in my backyard. And so if we went on vacation in the backyard every day or, whenever kids were off, I'd be just happy. I'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, and
Right.
keep a lot of money
But
in your pocket too.
keep a lot of money, hey, buy a little bit more lookers, right?
Yep.
Get more lookers.
Yes, sir.
But but like, we've gone to Costa Rica, we've gone to Mexico, and we've had some amazing memories that we created with the kids, right? And so, you know, I think we all have our role in the family. And, that's kind of how I keep her informed. I mean, I try to show occasionally I'll share with her some of the nightmares, but just let her know, hey, I got it handled. I got it handled. It's all
Yeah,
good.
me too.
Don't trip. It's all good.
Yep.
Kind of in passing, like, yeah, the roof fell off.
And she's like, wait, huh? Huh? You're not gonna just say that like you didn't just say the roof fell off. Like, run that back real
Right.
quick. My
Yeah.
wife's like
What
that too.
exactly happened?
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, I give her what helps me to keep my sanity, right? Because you always have to have a sounding board, right? You need to be able to kind of talk about, hey, here are some of the obstacles that we're going through. And that's with life in general, life, the businesses, the investment, the kids, right? It's that's why you have a partner. That's why
That's right, man.
you married your partner and your partner's there to, you know, sound off on.
Yeah. That's so apropos, man. That's good, dude. That's some good stuff right there. So speaking of kids, right? Do you involve your kids, in
100%.
either in your regular 9 to 5 or the real estate part of it, is there an aspect where your kids kind of fit into it? Because I know for me, my
Hey,
kids are still young and I'm trying to get them and educate them. But what about for
first
you?
of
Your
all,
kids are a little older.
I think it's cute how you call it a 9 to 5. I like how you can go to your job from 9 to 5 and be done with your job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the clock
Yeah.
24/7,
Yeah, yeah,
bro.
yeah, yeah.
If a
So,
website
okay,
if a
so let
website
me
goes
clarify.
down at 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
guess what? Guess who they call?
Yeah, you.
Right.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
let me clarify. I want to
So it's
say,
cute with your 9 to 5.
yeah, I want to say, okay, your W-2, right? Your W-2. Do you involve them in the W-2? Do you involve them in the real estate experience? And if so, to what capacity?
So my kids work for me, right? And so, I pay them a W-2 as well through the business. And that's something that we can kind of get into later on, but they do little things for the business. My daughter is a creative. She likes to draw. So I occasionally will have her jump in and help me out with logos. They help me out with filing things, that kind of stuff. They don't know the ins and outs of the business per se. They do know that, oh, daddy does work for, the city of Ontario, and we get to go and do these types of things, right? So that's beautiful, right? With the real estate, I do try to involve them as much as they want to be involved, right? So I talk to them about, hey, this is a property that we're looking at purchasing. And I don't say I'm looking at, I say we are looking at
That's
purchasing.
key.
We are going to buy,
That's
right?
key.
So they understand that, we have a looker or a couple of lookers in Indianapolis, and then they get to see the transformation, right? So I want to help them to understand. I also try to do some napkin math with them, like, okay, hey, if we purchase this house for X and we put this amount into the rehab, the after repair value is going to be this, and this is how much that monthly nut's going to be. How much rent should we charge? Get them to start thinking about that. Right? So, my kiddos are 11 and 15. My son just turned 15 this month, man. So it's like, it goes by like that. Right? And I'm consistently trying to give them, I set them up with their own bank accounts, right? So they have their ATMs, they get a monthly salary, right? And they understand budgeting. So I also try to show them that, hey, this is a constant that you get, like from your 9 to 5, you get, $100 a month.
Yeah.
Right. What could you do to earn more? Right.
Yeah.
And so,
How do you get a
in
raise?
fact, right. How do you get a raise? So, like, in fact, we tried, Viviana on, doing a podcast edit for us. Right. So we're always trying to keep them in front of opportunities. I want
Destiny
them
as
to
well.
think outside the box, man. You know, for my son, rather than pay the guy to do the lawn, I'm like, dude, why don't I give you the $50 to go out and do the lawn every week? Now, what happens if you skip a week? Well, guess what? I'm taking $10 off your thing. So, there's consequences for your actions. But, I'm going down a rabbit hole. But the bottom line is that I want the kids to understand that what we are doing is for them. I want them to understand why we do it and how it works and why does it matter.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're
How
setting
about
them up.
you, man? What about your
Yeah.
I mean, you got little youngins, like,
Yeah.
how do they participate?
Yeah. So just to finish my thought, it sounds like you're setting them up for success. And that's what we want to do, man. We want to set them up for success, set them also up with the foundation of that, that entrepreneurial spirit, So for my oldest daughter, she is 17, she's a senior. And, she has that entrepreneurial bug. She's asked me about business. And so she has also helped in both capacities. She's helped in my W-2 as a school teacher. She actually currently is my intern. And she comes to my classroom, helps grade papers. And I think that's a skill, that she's learning. Excuse me. And she also has helped balance the books, for the real estate properties. That was kind of a challenge for her at first, but once I broke it down for her, she was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I got it." My other daughter's in high school as well. She also just turned 15. She's a freshman and, she is, really super hands-on and super helpful. So anything that I need,
Nice.
she can help in that regard. And then our little ones, we have a second grader, a kindergartner, and a TKer. And so, I use the same verbiage that you do, right? I say we have a property in
That's key.
Indianapolis, and
That's
I think
key.
that's key because I believe that keeps them engaged, and it keeps them, wanting to know more about the business. So
Right.
right now they're kind of in that education phase and building that foundational knowledge, but I think the little things that you do to kind of keep your marriage strong, to keep your children engaged, to keep your family knit really tight, I believe that as a W-2 employee, as an investor, and a mix of both worlds, that can, really be strong if you keep everybody involved, and for
Yeah,
us,
100%.
yeah, I mean, we have Sunday, it's kind of like a Sunday sync,
Yep.
but every Sunday night we have a Sunday dinner, no matter what.
Yeah.
We drop everything we're doing for Sunday dinner. Oh, we meet, we pray, we eat, we break bread, and then we talk about, what our week was like, what's moving forward, blase, blase, blah. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's really key with juggling a family and a marriage, and as working individuals, and
Hey,
so
man, I think in addition to that, man, it's key to have a date night with your wife. Having a date night or a couple, you know what I'm saying?
it's
What?
it's been a minute.
Oh, no, no, no.
It's
Like,
been a minute.
dude,
I
any
think it's been a
opportunity that I
couple weeks.
can, I find opportunities like, like Pachangas is right down the street from us, man. And so I take advantage of that. I'll go and I'll get us a couple night stay, like even in the middle of the week, and just say, all right, let's go and just hang out and be with each other and enjoy, right? Go and have a beautiful dinner, go and watch a comedy show. Like it's important to date your wife. You got to keep it going.
Hey,
You
you
got to
be
keep
showing
it
up to
going.
them wineries busting a move though too, huh?
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about, man. But the other thing that's cool, you bringing that up. I mean, my wife and I, we go to a hip hop class. We go to a hip hop class on Mondays and Wednesdays, like just doing things to, you
With
know,
each other.
with each other,
That's
right?
key,
It's
man.
not just about business. It's
Yeah.
not just about building the real
Yeah.
estate empire. It's
Right.
not just about building the business, right?
Right.
You got to keep it,
Yeah.
holistic.
Balanced. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
100%.
Cool, cool, cool. So, what are some recent like real estate wins, or just like some moments where you were like, man, what on earth just happened? BTF,
Yeah.
like anything
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
crazy, like some bird success, refinancing, or, like, I don't know, man. Like maybe
Yeah.
just something
So
today or this week.
So it's interesting. I've had a lot happen this week. So, for example, we broke ground on two ADUs, one ADU that you and I are a part of on the project that we're working on together, and then another one that I've had for over a year. We finally broke ground on that ADU. Have an amazing Hampton Restoration, man. I got to give it out to them.
Shout out Maurice.
Absolutely amazing contractor for us. He's just killing it. It's been a I know I keep saying amazing, but really it has been amazing to
Based on our
have someone
previous
that
experience, huh?
yeah, to have somebody that I can completely count on and, be able to not always be on, right?
Yeah.
Not always be on. Like
Yeah.
you always are like, and like I said, even in this morning, I wake up and I'm like, what fire
Yeah,
do I have
yeah,
to
yeah,
put
yeah.
out?
It's
Right?
having that
I
white
know that
glove service, huh? We talked
is
about that in
incredible.
our last
Yeah.
episode. Go back and watch that, man. That was
Yeah.
key when we talk about the rehab process and vetting contractors, finding that white glove service, and that's what Drew's kind of alluding to, man. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But let me tell you, dude, so you talk about like aha moments, like, oh my gosh, what the heck? So I'm in the process of refinancing a true BRRRR. I want to talk about this true BRRRR. And what I mean by true BRRRR is like it actually cash flowed from like I purchased the property, I did the rehab. I'm in the process of refinancing. So the numbers are I bought this property for $70,000. I rehabbed it for about 15,000, so that's 85,000 in. It came back as an ARV of 138. I'm going to be able to pull out $103,000 when I rehab this property. So that is a true BRRRR. I basically get all of my money back. Plus, I'm also getting, a couple thousand more, right? That's a beautiful situation. But what's been crazy is that I'm going back and forth with the bank, and the bank came back and they actually looked at the they looked at the appraisal and they're looking at the pictures and they're like, "Hey, we don't see no beds in this house." right? And I'm like, okay, what's that got to do with me, right? It's rented, I got a lease,
Yeah.
etc. And so they're like, well, you know, we don't want you renting this out to like a corporation or something like that. We actually need to know that somebody's living in this house. Like there's 0 beds. And I'm like, listen, I got a lease. It's ready to rock and roll. So,
Did you
I'm
say
actually
that
renting this out.
there's 0 beds?
There's 0 beds,
They're tripping.
right? There's
They're
no
tripping that
beds
there's
in the
no
house.
beds in the bedrooms.
But listen to this. Check this out. So I reach out to the lady that I'm renting it out to. She's doing she basically handles Section 8 and placement, excuse me, veterans placement. So this she reaches out to her tenant. She's subletting it. She reaches out to her tenant and kind of brings up the fact that there's no beds. Well, turns out, man, like this lady, she can't afford a bedroom set. And I was like, so, dude, I'm gonna get her a bedroom set. I'm gonna buy her a bedroom set
Bless
because
your heart.
no one deserves to be sleeping on the freaking floor. So I'm actually looking at Indiana Bed, and they have like beds that I can buy for like 30, $40. I'm gonna get her a dresser or set for like a couple $100 and just get her set up so she can have a bed and a bedroom set and like live, comfortably, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like, dude, first of all, the loan company calling that out and then us putting that lady in a situation where she's embarrassed because she don't got a bed set. That broke my heart to, dude. Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting moment. And, only in real estate, right? You come across these situations where it's like,
Crazy.
just pulls at your
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
And it's kind of
So,
like, why do y'all care about, that there's no beds? Like, you don't
right?
know her situation. Like, you know, it's
It's
just,
none of your business.
yeah, it's none of your
It's none of your
business.
business,
Exactly. It's just one
right?
of those kind of weird things that, lenders want you to jump through, and it
And
really,
dude,
it
I
really
showed
has no bearing on anything
I
at the end
showed
of
you
the
the
day.
pictures, bro. I showed you the pictures.
Yeah.
That house is immaculate. Like
It's beautiful.
she has pride
Yeah.
in this house. Like
Yeah.
like someone who, is
Maybe
getting
she's
some
sleeping on the
government
couch. Who
assistance.
cares?
Who cares? It's none of your business, man.
Exactly.
But I'm glad that I learned about this because now I can take care of it,
Yeah. Yeah. And that is
How
kind of
about you,
like,
man?
well, so, that's just kind of like, as investors, we get a bad rap, right? Like that, we're only in it for the money, but, we're in it because, we want to provide, you know, safe, affordable housing, right? And if we
100%.
understand a situation, if we know a situation, you know, like Drew said, here's a situation where he can come in and be like, dude, I can get a bedroom set for a couple $100 and they can put a bedroom in there. Now she can sleep comfortably. Right. And
Yeah.
you're doing good by the lender, and now you're really doing good by the tenant, because we never really know a situation until we really know the situation. And so, at the end of the day, it's people helping people. And I think that is just really, really, really awesome on your part, brother, that you are really just kind of going out of your way, because, you don't have to, but
Dude,
you want
I'm not
to.
going for the accolades. I'm
Right.
not going for the accolades.
Yeah.
I'm going because everybody deserves to sleep on a freaking bed, especially if you're in my house.
Exactly.
If you gonna sleep in my house, you sleeping in a bed. You're not sleeping on the floor. You're not sleeping on the couch. F that. Excuse my
Yeah.
French, but for reals.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. And so, speaking about the lender, dude. So, as sorry, W-2. I'm not going to say 925 because, Drew gets upset. But as W-2 employees, we've talked about this a couple of episodes ago on our first Crafting Goals Friday, how,
Yeah.
we'd like to be job optional. We're not in a hurry to quit our job,
No.
because our job allows us to leverage, or excuse me, we can leverage our W-2s to help us purchase more real estate. And so I think, a lot of people have this perception that you have to quit your job to be, really serious about real estate investing. Like, I quit my job. I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm all in. And we know people like that. And we're like, that's cool, dude. Like, do you, but I ain't quit my job. Me
No.
personally, I love my job. I love school teaching. I like working
Yep.
with kids, So how do we leverage our W-2? What kind of skills do we have that we've learned from our W-2 that we are able to leverage in the real estate game?
Well, that's a good question. I think that would be something that you should probably answer because again, I feel equipped. I feel like because of my background of running a business for over, 20 years, man, like I understand how to prioritize, I understand how to compartmentalize, different things. I manage stress better than most. Let's just put it that way. So I'd love to, and I think, you probably are cut from the same cloth because you're as a history teacher teaching that boring ass subject, you've got to
Hey, why you
come.
hating?
Did I say that? Hey, sorry.
Man, you had a lot
But
of animosity in your voice right there.
hey, I was never good at history, so I'm just
I can
jealous.
tell.
I'm just jealous. Hey, hey, ask me who the last president was. I don't even remember, bro. I don't even remember.
I think a
Anyways,
lot of people want to forget who the last president was.
so but you come through with lesson plans, you come through super organized, you have to manage 30 to 40 different kids at a different time, I mean, like, there's a lot that your job has helped you to prepare. So tell us about it.
So listen, if you're gonna boomerang it back to me, the so as a school teacher, right? There are qualities like organization, communication that really go to hand in hand with real estate investing. You absolutely have to be skilled at communicating with people. I communicate with kids on a day-to-day basis, right? Obviously, my clientele is a little different, excuse me, dealing with adults in the real estate industry, but the concept is the same. I think that the professionalism, that comes with, being a school teacher, I know that that has played a impact on my game as a real estate investor. Use that professionalism to get into different communities in the real estate space.
Yeah.
And I think that that is one way that the skills as a school teacher allow me to kind of leverage that to up my game as an investor. Being organized is a must.
What about being able to pick up the phone and
Yeah.
call a potential, someone who's selling a property?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
100%. Yeah. 100%. I mean, um, if I got to pick up the phone call to call a parent, I can pick up a phone call to call a potential seller, and,
1000%.
dealing with, with families, sometimes they have pain points, right?
Yeah.
Dealing with sellers, they sometimes have pain points, right? And it's
Yep.
all about what? It's about listening, right? It's about
Yeah.
active listening and, doing those things to kind of understand, being empathetic, with a
Yeah.
child, being empathetic with a family, a parent, being empathetic with
Being a problem solver.
being a problem solver. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you are in a W-2 where you are considering quitting, if you are considering, saying I got to give it up to be a real estate investor, I would challenge you to reconsider and really, think about what are the qualities that you have in your current profession, you know, that you
Yeah.
can leverage. And then at the end of the day, I mean, here's the big kicker, right? Like, that's your income, So the
Yeah.
W-2, bro, is the seed money. You know what I mean? It's the
Dude, it's
paycheck
it's called
that,
active
yeah, it's
income.
active income for a
Yeah.
reason, right? You get taxed
Yeah.
on it, whatever. It is what it is, but it's the paycheck to kind of help you scale smartly. And I know you
Why are you
looking.
teasing us? Yeah, dude.
Hey, I went back
You
to
did a
wine.
switcheroo again. Wow. I was looking for that crafty. I was like,
I
where's the
drank it
crafty at?
already. I got thirsty
Dude, so
waiting on you to answer these questions.
listen, here's the deal. Everything you said is 100% correct. And I think that everyone who has a job has something that some sort of characteristic that they bring from that job that can help them to be effective in real estate investing. Right. So, dude, I love it.
I love it too, man.
I love the balance, and I think a lot of people make it harder than what it should be, right? I think that if you start with understanding what the priorities are, and then bringing it back to our last goal setting episode, understanding why are you doing what you're doing? What is the reason? Really taking a step back and peeling back the layers and saying, all right, I'm doing this because I want a better life for my kids, or I want a better life for myself, or I want to get rich. At least be truthful.
Yeah, that's fine.
Call it how you call it for what it is.
Dude, ain't
right?
nothing wrong with making money. You know what I mean? I think
100%. So if that's your goal, then what are the steps that are going to get you there? And what are the things that you need? And what are important? What are the priorities that are important? Right. So for me, I want to build a legacy for my family. So again, at the top of that pie, at the top of that chart is family. In order for me to build a legacy for my family, I got to have a family. And if I ain't there for my family, I ain't gonna have a family.
there you go.
Bottom line.
Bottom line.
Right? So got to be there for
Facts.
my kids. Got to be there for my wife. Got to be there for my extended family, my mother, my father, my grandmother. But, listen, you got to have those priorities. You got to set them straight. And those have to be your pillars, right? And then from there, you start to build on those pillars, right? Okay, so what's going to help me to achieve those goals? I think it starts with priority. And if you make it a priority, you will find time for it. You will find time for it.
That's it, man. Make it a priority, dude. Make your life a priority. That's
100%.
that's huge, man. So cool, man. Hey, this is good.
Yo, you killed it.
Another Crafting Goals Friday. Cheers.
You killed it. Cheers.
Put your glass up. Boom.
You drinking cloudy water? What you drinking?
Ah, bro, it's a Pinot. People, man, we're so thankful. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for rocking with us. Hey, listen, you know what? Do us a favor.
Yep.
Like.
What is it? What you want them to do?
I want them to like and subscribe. And
yes,
I want them to do another favor for us. If you know another busy dad, like Drew and myself,
yes,
share this episode with them, man.
Yeah, introduce them. Oh, hey, can I put in a request?
Go ahead.
Check it out. If you guys got questions or comments, please drop them down below.
Yes.
We want, dude, we are here.
I actively view comments. So leave us a comment.
Listen, and none of those crypto comments. Come on now.
Get out of here spamming us. Ain't nobody got time for that, man.
Come on now.
Get out of here.
Listen, if you are thinking about entering into the real estate game or thinking about not even real estate, if you have some goals that you're trying to achieve or accomplish and, you're going through some trials, some tribulations, drop it in the comments or, DM us. Let us know. You know how to DM us on Insta. And I don't do the TikTok, but I think you put me on the TikTok, didn't you?
I put him on the TikTok. Hey, check us out on TikTok. There it is right there.
And we appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening and listening to us go back and forth, that little banter. You can tell we love this stuff and we love that you're on a journey with us.
Sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Drew, I'm Jordan, and we are the Property Brrrr. Thanks.
The Property Brrrrothas.
Peace. We out. The Property Brothers was produced and edited by the hosts. All rights are reserved by the Property Brothers LLC, and the hosts are operating exclusively on behalf of the Property Brothers LLC. Please consult appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business advice. Nothing on this show should be considered professional advice. We appreciate you all for following our journey. It would mean the world to us if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. God bless.